Auspicious greeting to all friends from around the world. This is Venerable Zhixing from Guang Shan Temple in Los Angeles, United States. Thank you for joining our online English Dharma service. It is nice to share the Dharma with all of you again. When we learn more about Buddhism, we might notice that Buddhism talks a lot about sufferings. It talks about all kinds of distress and defilement that we have, whether it's suffering from getting old, getting sick, dying, and so on. Some people think that it is very pessimistic and negative. However, this is actually not the case. The Buddha once said, "All I teach is sufferings and the end of sufferings." What the Buddha emphasized more is the end of sufferings. He told people about suffering first because it helped us recognize the various kind of distress and the satisfaction we have in our life. Through seeing and learning about them, we would be inspired to follow the Buddha's teachings to end all these sufferings. If we take some time and self-reflect, all of us has the innate nature to get rid of sufferings and find happiness. Though whether satisfying our desires is real happiness or not is another question that we need to analyze. 2,500 years ago, Prince Siddhartha did the same. He saw the sufferings of old age, sickness, and death. This inspired him to leave the palace and went on a quest to find ways out of these sufferings. Ultimately, he attained enlightenment under the Bodhi tree, realized the truth of the universe, and became the Buddha, the awakened one. From the story of the Buddha, we can also get a glimpse of what Buddhism is about. It's basically about sufferings and ending of sufferings. This is also clearly demonstrated by the fact that the first teaching that the Buddha taught to his disciple was the Four Noble Truths, which are sufferings, causes of sufferings, cessation of sufferings, and the path to cessation of sufferings. Like the doctor, the Buddha first told us about the sickness we have. He then gave a diagnosis of the sickness and told us the cause of them. Afterward, he prescribed the medicine to us so that we can be free from the sickness. Now let us look at what the Four Noble Truths are. The first Noble Truth, dukkha, is generally translated as sufferings, but sufferings is just one aspect of the word. It doesn't just mean physical pain, but mental suffering as well. We all face various sufferings in our life, or we see them around us. We all need to face the fact that we're growing older each day. When we're old, we're facing the fact that our life is one day shorter. During the current COVID-19 pandemic, we all see that over 12 million people suffered from this disease, and over 560,000 people died from it. We see news of people died from murders, from the pandemics, and we see the death of our families and friends. We may be disappointed and angry from not getting what we want, or we may be angry and frustrated over having to work with someone whom we dislike, or someone who pushes our buttons. We might be stressed over the inevitable changes in our life. Let me ask you this. Do you have sufferings in your life? Do you know that you have sufferings in your life? In order to seek the ultimate happiness and eliminate all defilement in life, it is very important for us to know the sufferings in our life so that we will be motivated to change. If we do not know that we have suffering or dissatisfaction in our life, we will not even start on the spiritual journey to cultivate in the first place. We have a tendency to divert our attention from our problems or not wanting to face them. We believe that life can go on as usual, bad thing will just go away, or we might just dwell in things that give us short-term happiness, whether it's attending a barbecue party or hanging out with friends, watching a movie, or traveling. Venerable Master Xun Yun once told us that we need to know the sufferings, afflictions, and defilement we have. We need to be aware of them before we can start to change. The second noble truth is the cause of sufferings. A lot of time when we try to identify the causes of our stress or defilement, we tend to think that it's because of other people or the external conditions. It is someone who gave me troubles. It is the environment. Our fingers always seem to point at others, but not at ourselves. However, the Buddha told us otherwise. He told us that the root of sufferings lies in our thirst, or we call it our craving. In another word, the strong desires or craving in our mind is the principal conditions for sufferings. This craving is also called the unquenchable thirst, because these desires can never be satisfied. We have many cravings in our life. We might like to see beautiful things, or listen to beautiful sounds, smell good fragrance, taste delicious food or drinks, or enjoy soft, smooth touch. People might get into conflict, fight, or commit unwholesome deed to try to acquire these sensual objects. We would be happy if we get them successfully. However, anger and aversion would arise when we failed. Our craving is based upon our ignorance, not seeing the world as it truly is, but what we think it is. In another word, the cause of our sufferings is from our greed, anger, and ignorance. The third noble truth is known as the cessation of sufferings. It is a state of mind with no more greed, anger, and ignorance. It is the end of suffering, discontent, distress, and sorrow. It is a state of total freedom from self-attachment and all causes of sufferings. Thus, it is also called unbinding. Why are we free and unbind? It is because we realize the profound truth. We see the world and all conditions as they truly are. Therefore, we're not attached to them anymore. This brings an end to our craving. Cessation of sufferings is also sometimes called extinguishing the fire of struggles, resistance, anger, aversion, and attempts to fulfill our endless desires. Now that we know it is possible for us to be free from sufferings, we would be inspired to follow the path that leads us toward that goal. This is the fourth noble truth, the path to cessation of sufferings. This path is also a path taken by all Buddhas in the past. It is called the Noble Eightfold Path. They are right view, right thoughts, right speech, right actions, right livelihood, right effort, right mindfulness, and right concentration. There are not 8 separate training, but rather they are like a tapestry that is interwoven in our life. The Buddha told us that our mind is like the painter who can paint our world and create everything. We have the power to create our world, whether it is chaotic or peaceful. What kind of world do you want to live in? Sometimes we choose to do things that might give us temporary happiness, but leave us in sufferings afterward, such as drinking, smoking, or gambling. Other people might play online games to divert their attention from the problems in their life. We know that it's not good for us, but we can't help ourselves. Therefore, the question here is not really about whether we're able to free ourselves from pain and sufferings or not, but rather whether we really want to free ourselves or not. The Buddha had told us the path to cessation of sufferings. We just need to be determined and practice it. How can we apply the Four Noble Truths in our life? We can actually apply this teaching whenever we encounter problems in our life, whether it is an external matter or its affliction in our mind. Let us use the problem of dealing with anger as an example. When things didn't go according to what we want, or didn't go according to plan, or when unexpected situation arise, we get upset and angry easily. There are some people who get angry easier as compared to others. When we get angry, we act irrationally without thinking of the consequences. We may say things or do things that we regret later. In serious case, it may lead to harms to others, conflicts with others, or it might even lead to losing our job. However, we just can't seem to control our emotion at that moment, even though we know this is not right. This is the suffering of having problems in managing our anger. The cause of all these sufferings obviously is due to our anger. Our ultimate goal is to be able to maintain equanimities at all times. We can only see all situations with clarity, with a calm and peaceful mind. Now, the question is, how do we achieve this goal and be able to manage our emotion? Venerable Master Shan once told us that to better manage our emotion, especially anger, it takes several steps. Once we know that we have problem with managing our anger, we need to first remind ourselves to not to react to the anger the moment anger arises. We might still look very angry, but we tell ourselves not to talk or not to act upon it. This is the first step. It does take time to achieve this first step because we often just react to our emotion before thinking. Once we can control our action and speech, the next step is to tell ourselves not to show anger on our face, even if we are still very angry within. Thus, at the second step, we might still be angry in our mind, but we don't show it on our face and we don't react to it. Once we succeed, the last step is to not be angry at all. We're able to handle the situation with calmness and clarity. The key point to working on each of these steps is actually maintaining right mindfulness. What this means is that we are mindful of our thoughts and feelings at all times. Only if we're mindful of our feelings would we be able to remind ourselves not to react. We can train the sense of mindfulness through practicing meditation daily. We might find it hard to fit the practice in our busy schedule. One can start with meditating, focusing on your breath 10 minutes before you go to bed or when you wake up in the morning. Another way to help us to cool down our anger is to figure out the cause of our anger. Anger doesn't just arise out of the blue. There is always a reason why we get angry. It might be because we're being wronged, or because we didn't get what we want, or because of miscommunication. Recently, someone shared a drawing with me. On the drawing was a man lying at the edges of the cliff trying to pull his girlfriend up, and his girlfriend is hanging by the cliff. However, the man was pinned down under a huge rock that lied across his back. On the wall of the cliff, though, is a poisonous snake hissing at the girlfriend. At that moment, the man was angry with his girlfriend for not trying to reach up and climb the cliff. The woman was angry with her boyfriend for not trying to pull harder. Both people only saw what was in front of them and didn't see what the other was currently facing. Thus, misunderstanding arose. We might think that they are silly. However, how often does this happen in our relationship with others? Because we don't understand why others behave the way they do or where they're coming from, or why they think in such a way, we easily believe what we see or what we hear at the current moment and become angry with them. If these are the cause of our anger, then we should learn to change our perspective. Learn to think from other people's point of view and try to understand where they're coming from. Sometimes, if we understand and if we change our place with them and place ourselves in their shoes, we would be able to let go of our anger. So next time when you become angry, sad, frustrated, try to identify the causes of what make you feel such a way. Once you identify the cause, try to come up with a solution to resolve these issues. A lot of times you might find that it's really about changing your perspective. It's about your mind. Last but not least, thank you for joining us in this cultivation session. May Buddhas and Bodhisattvas bless everyone with happiness and peace. May everyone be safe and well. 阿弥陀佛。